I'm Anna.
I'm Ben.
We're AutoSave. Welcome to our channel.
Today we're watching Vinland Saga, Season 1, Episode 12. Last episode we had a bit of a battle, a bit of a fire. We also got to see a bit of a face. That was a cool face. I like that face. Maybe we'll see it more this episode.
Maybe we'll learn a little bit more about the owner of that face, and maybe they will speak, and we will hear what's going on in their head.
The owner of a face. I mean, we saw a face last episode. Maybe we'll see or hear a voice this episode.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe. I don't know. Took 12 episodes to really see that face, so maybe it's another 12 before we hear that voice.
That would be wild.
Yeah.
I could see it, though. I could see that happening. I
could not see that happening, but I could potentially see that conversation with Thorkel last episode being, elaborated on or brought up again in terms of Thorfinn being the son of,
Thor's.
Yeah, Thor's. Yeah. Renowned. Across the land.
That's not the end of that conversation, for sure.
Yeah, agreed. All right, ready?
Yeah.
Sweet. You know how in some animes, during like a really important battle, you get the intro song?
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if we're ever going to have that with this show, because this would be a great song to accompany a battle in. One of my favorite instances of that is from an abridged show, Sword Art Online Abridged. In one of their final fights in their first season, they used a 30 Seconds to Mars song that they had been in the intro for a fight, and it fits so well, man. So cool. Not a very good season for fishing, huh? Hmm.
達者なイングランド語を話されるが、なまっていらっしゃる。国のなまりに似て。おぎしへの私賃はいくらです？銀2枚。は酒でもよいが、作文には何日かかるやろ。にはこの手紙だけです。来たと思うたが残念じゃ。これを対岸のどなたへ。このどなたかへ大至急。アシュラットからとお伝えいただきたい。おお、承知しました。大至急。
Interesting.
What was with the shot of him looking at Askeladd's chest? The composition there threw me off a little bit.
The ear.
I wonder how far they have to be for him to hear them.
They're close behind us. One day away.
よほどの強行軍なんだろう。だと数日のうちに追いつかれるな。静かにしろお前ら。丘の上2機。完全に捕捉されたな。どうするなら今のうちに陣を張らねば。しませんって。しかしこのままでは。を要請しました。
Nice.
これまでは逃げ回り。
Who? Specifically.
あいつがその手の嘘を言ったことあるか？でも一番近い鳥ではレスターだろう。2週間はかかるぞ。
2 weeks isn't gonna help anyone.
Who does Askeladd know?
They're used to being on the water. It's probably the most time they've spent just marching around on the land.
なんだ、何か用か。みんな動揺してるぜ。ちった説明してやれよ。 動揺させとけ。少しぐらい焦った方が行動も早くなんだよ。
He wants to know what's up.
お前も寝ろ。数日ちょっと変だぜ。何か王子の顔を見てからだ。そうだろ。俺は悪党の中で40年余りどんな奴なのか、大物か小物か、利口かだけで分かっちまうのさ。
So what did you see when you looked at his face?
王子の面見てな、分かっちまったんだよ。 王者の面じゃねえってな。ああ、まあ女みてえな面だよ。だがよ、あれはまだガキじゃねえか。まだ若い。これからだ。これからって。よし、起きろ。
Interesting.
行軍準備。追いつかれんぞ。マジかよ。まだ真っ暗じゃ。
Do you think he felt inspired to keep him alive?
To maybe to see if he can turn into someone that
Yeah.
would look like they'd be the king. The fog's worrisome.
うるせえな。黙ってろよ。いや、眠っちまいそうでさ。すぐそこまで来てる。ああ、分かってる。追いつかれちまうぞ。分かってるってんだ。これそこ。
Only two reinforcements? Who are these two?
Is it like
I'm
we
kind
only
of-
need two
I'm
of
kind
them?
of excited.
The commander himself.
The fog made a pretty epic entrance, I gotta
Oh.
say.
乗せて川を渡ったってわけだ。だったかわかるか。いや、それが船じゃねえよ。流灯がなかった。目が書いてあった。選手のとこにツベン王の船じゃなさそうだな。うちの足跡をたどることはできなくなったな。
That's what he wanted to do.
奴らのことは侮ってたな。向こう岸を味方につけてるとはな。だからデンマークに寝返ったってことすか？お前ものを知らねえな。向こうはそもそもイングランドじゃねえんだぜ。ウェールズってんだ。
I've only been to Wales once. It was gorgeous.
イングランドに比べ貧しい土地とローマ支配時代の終焉するほどの国家が育つことはなく、割拠する状態が数百年続いてに応じたのはそんな小王国の一
By
つだ。
one of those small kingdoms.
Look at the priest.
He didn't say you could have their ships.
Who, like, what was Askeladd's time here like?
He respects these people.
はやぶさ、こんなに低く。ラグナル、出てくれ。殿下。今だ。イングランドを北上するよりはマシですよ。この国は私の味方です。心配だとおっしゃるなら、ハルフィー。このものをクヌート殿下に。
Yes! Yes!
勝手に決めんじゃねえよ。
Look at how Canute's looking at him.
私も同じなので気が合うでしょ。
Oh!
They're the same age. Fast friends. This is beautiful. I love it.
帰りはあるんだろうな。インズ払いに着いたら相手してやる。準備は良いか。はい、ただいま。クーグ王国の将軍グラティアヌス殿。
Gratianus.
少し剣があるが良いかをこちらにおわします。
he thought Thorfinn was Canute?
目に力がない。本当に時代の貴様失礼であろう。の逃避行に協力する理由は一つ。不可侵条約の締結だ。飛行次第。王子よ。
He would want to be a part of non-aggression.
王となった暁には決してウェールズには。はい、お任せください。殿下は公務しておられる。山積を提供するならば、私は王子本人に聞いているのだ。まあよい。また後で聞く。それまでに文書を用意しておく。
Ragnar doesn't seem to have a lot of respect for being in someone else's country and just
Yeah.
being helped by them.
コマンチはこちらの足元に口が聞けるとでも思うとるんか。
Of another country?
トルケルよりは山道の方がマシで、トルケルから王子を救ったの一つももらいたいもんだ。かっちょいい剣とか。
I think a farm is a better pick.
I don't know, a cool sword? You kidding me?
いや、世界中からさらってきた100人もいるってよ。おい、神父さんよ。いたんだよな。王の家にはどんなものがあったね。と言って価値のありそうなものはな そう美女も
He did have.
あんた女に興味ない
私の求めているものに比
Okay.
べればつまらないものだということです。
Drink.
一体それは何なんだ
愛です。
愛聞いたことねえな俺知ってる呪文かなんかだよ食いもんじゃねえの何ポンドのものだ
銀では測れもに価値を与えるのも愛だからです。
Love is what gives value to silver.
金も銀も美女もすべて無。
を与えるほんとわけわかんねえなもう銀の価値だろうがいいこと言いやがってムシムシ坊さんおいくれよ今の話もう少し聞き
They were bored, you know? They needed something to talk about.
ご尽力痛み入りますではない利害の
Interesting score here, too.
兼ねておりイングランドの侵攻に苦しめられエンジンが黙らせてくれるなら我に都合がいいきっとさように約束されましあれがお前のガーシェランド
Is that your king?
数字は申し分ありませんまあ若さに期待しています惚れた男ほどです案外くらいの器の方がちょうどいいの
Wow.
More.
未だ伝説を信じておいでです
The legend.
西の彼方のアバロンから戻られ復興なさるという伝説を
They're eavesdropping.
アシカが
耳のやつはそう言ってるぜ
Are they not happy about it?
Have they changed their mind?
面白いヤヌス殿なぜわかる部下に耳の良いもだがもう遅いどうしたトロフィー
We're gonna see Thorfinn protect the prince right now.
Ambush.
Oh, it's so similar to when Thor's...
Yep.
And we just had the flashback! Leaf?
待て早くしろ行くぞ
He's gonna see Thorfinn, like, everywhere.
Oh. He's going to keep his promise.
The hawk. So who do they have as allies?
What a shot.
The episode better not end right
It's
now.
gonna
I
end right
swear.
now.
That wasn't fair.
Okay, that was Vinland Saga, Season 1, Episode 12. That was a very interesting episode.
That was the most I didn't want it to end yet.
What, in the series
Yeah.
so far?
That was the episode that had me the most frustrated by the ending.
It felt like that might have been one of my favorite paced episodes. I was so immersed in it. It felt like it was a movie.
Mm-hmm.
I loved it. God, I guess I get what you mean about not wanting it to end, because I just kind of wanted to watch it for the next hour and a half.
Like, I can't, right now, I can't even think back, like, accurately to think if I had a similar reaction to any other episode in this season, in this show. But this one for sure, I was like, I don't want this to end right now. It feels like it's about to end, and I really don't want it to. And I'm really happy to have been given a feeling like that.
Yeah, from the beginning of the episode, it was painted as a slightly different view, and more of like we're behind Askeladd, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're a camera behind him,
Mm-hmm.
and learning that since seeing the Princess Canute's face, right? He's been feeling different. He's been acting different. He's been thinking different. And I think like that tonal shift was really well conveyed and felt like I felt that throughout the entire episode.
I feel like I need a little bit more time to figure out, unlock, and analyze a lot of the different pieces of dialogue as evidence, you know, together for what Askeladd's currently thinking, like what his thought process currently is. Like there's definitely a lot of good lines that could help with that unpacking, but at the moment I feel equipped, but I don't feel like I can like immediately unlock it. I feel like I need like time to like present the facts and the evidence and the dialogue, and then start to try to craft my reasons for thinking that he's feeling a certain way.
Yeah.
What are those feelings actually?
I'm not sure. Seeing, because I can easily like read in too much to things, right?
Mm-hmm.
When they're not blatantly stated for us to determine and dissect. But just like watching Askeladd's mentality this episode, it feels like it's slightly different, at least, from how he was talking about basking in the riches of the situation. It seems like seeing the prince's face, or Canute's face, it's something connected for him in terms of what Thors had said to him.
Mm-hmm.
And about how he's viewing these people. Like, I think that it's a really, really important point to not forget that we were also given Thorfinn and Canute's age this episode being the same.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is a detail and theme that was really important for us to hear this episode specifically. Mm-hmm. And I think that it's meant to align with how Askeladd is thinking and feeling right now.
I think why it's hard for me to immediately grasp and like identify exactly what I would believe analyzed would be what he's thinking and feeling is because I feel like Askeladd's been on somewhat of a journey the last couple episodes.
Yeah.
He was at one point before the episode Ragnarok, which I believe was like episode 10. And then so he started acting a little differently. So when Bjorn in this episode's like, you've been acting weird the last couple days, before he finished that thought and sentence, I thought he was going to say, since you killed that one messenger. But then he says, since you saw the prince's face, you've been acting weird. And so what that tells us is that all those actions that we haven't seen, because we literally opened this episode we ended last episode with seeing the prince's face, and we opened this episode, we're traveling with him. We don't get to see whatever Bjorn is identifying as odd actions of Askeladd prior to us entering this episode.
You're right. And what we can go off of maybe is just like perception of like and feeling that this episode gave us. And I think that previously in the series, I'm looking at Askeladd like I'm always only looking at like 50% of his capabilities. Like he's able to be so confident and strong, and no matter who he's up against or what situation he's in, I feel like he's going to be able to activate that other 50% and go and like outthink anybody in the situation, utilize his intelligence and strength to be able to overcome whatever battle he's facing. But throughout this episode, I feel like since the beginning of the episode, he's been on 100%. I feel like he's completely on right now, and he's utilizing every trick he has or every connection he's made, or like he's. It feels like he's completely motivated right now in a weird way. That's like, okay, he's trying to. Like he has a goal in mind, or maybe an idea of a goal, and like he feels like he needs to go this direction. He's just doing it like full throttle.
Like we're used to an Askeladd who, obviously we've seen in fights that he has to be a little bit more trickster, a little more crafty, a little more snarky in his comments. There's this like, this kind of mask that's created of confidence that he uses to manipulate others, but also to have charisma for the people that he's leading. And it always has felt like a little bit like this character that's being created so that people will follow you and people will trust in you, but also you can intimidate people. But in this episode, there was almost like that almost act of charisma was like pushed to the side a little bit. Like he didn't feel like when he says to Thorfinn's like, are you going to reward me for this? And he like just immediately is like, yeah, when we get to blah, 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 you'll have your duel.
Yep. He like, it's not shrouded in any of his like normal theatrics or like vagueness around it, or like acting like he doesn't know what Thorfinn wants. It's like he's like, yeah, okay, I'll do that. Like,
there's a much more like everything's in the front seat, like he's driving right
Yeah.
now completely. Like I think you, when you said like 100% on or motivated,
yeah,
they're the little like, I don't even know what to, it's not even a mask, but whatever he shrouds himself in normally is cast off right now.
yeah. The air and atmosphere around him this episode was so intriguing, and I also don't want it to be lost on us that what does this show us in terms of how Askeladd thinks of Thorfinn? Not only an acknowledgement of strength, but trust. Because, sure, he's offering him something like a duel that Thorfinn wants, but out of every person in his arsenal right now, who is he trusting to guard or protect Canute? You know? Like, that's an incredibly massive ask. I think
He's
it
literally
shows a lot.
giving Thorfinn the biggest. If the king were to sit down and be like, okay, what role did each of you play so that I can pick from my gold, silver, and women in my castle and gift upon you these things? What role did you play? And then Thorfinn's role is like literally the by the side protector of Canute.
Yeah.
He's gonna get the best of the rewards.
Well, how do you pronounce his name? Sorry, I don't know my glasses.
Gratanius?
Let's listen. We're not going to follow the King of Dales. Gratianus. Okay. Sorry. Gratianus's entrance was so interesting to me because like the air around them, like when we first saw two people standing there, I immediately was thinking like, okay, these are figures and people larger than life that I could compare to somebody like Thorkel, right? And these two people might be able to make such a significant difference in battle by themselves that numbers don't matter. And I guess I was feeling or thinking that based off of previous instances of like these characters introducing themselves. But the fact that it wasn't that, and the fact that it was a connection that Askeladd had, and he chose to utilize that to move us, right? And reinforcements, not as in all these people coming to help us fight. That alone gave me a very different feeling of what Askeladd's mental is looking like this episode.
This choice to move us completely away to what I think Askeladd is deeming the least threatening position, the safer position. But also he's putting Canute in a situation where Canute can build relations with other countries for when he comes into power.
Yeah.
Like, there's this conversation has come up multiple times in this episode of, okay, when you become king, what's the relationship that you will have with Wales?
Yeah.
What relationship will we have? And so Askeladd's kind of giving the prince something, but also taking him on a safer route, but also taking him on like almost like a relation building route.
It's like, yes, and also like giving him the option to like grow, right? Giving him that environment where he has the ability to make a decision like that.
Because sometimes it's not the mark of a leader to be the best and strongest fighter all the time. Sometimes the best leader could be the one that is better at building relations between different countries and better at diplomacy and things of that nature. So it's almost like maybe we're seeing that Askeladd is identifying and aware that there could be different kinds of whatever the best leader for us would be. And that maybe Canute isn't fitting what they're stereotypically used to, but that doesn't mean he couldn't grow into something that could be a good leader.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm trying to find the piece of dialogue this episode where Askeladd is thinking of Thor's, because the dialogue around here was super interesting to me. So, is that your king, Askeladd? And it's showing Canute. Askeladd saying he's from a good bloodline. As for the rest, I have high hopes for him since he's young. And that's the shot that we get of Thor's. And what it reminds me of, like, in terms of dialogue, is in episode 4 when Thor's was saying that a true warrior doesn't need a sword.
It's literally the exact same frame of Thor's.
And that idea, a true warrior doesn't need a sword, has been like, it's kind of been directly saying it, right, again and again, about how Canute isn't like a fighter. He's not doing anything. Like, you know, it's that image of what Askeladd has of what Thor said has been like we're setting up for Canute to be that, right? A true warrior who doesn't have a sword.
That's the hope, that he could grow into that because he's young.
But like the idea of Askeladd having about Canute becoming that is so reliant on hope that it's like otherworldly to me that Askeladd is like just from instinct or feeling after seeing Canute's face, he is able to have this like hope or trust that maybe he could become this person.
I don't even know if it's just contingent on having that hope. I think through Thorfinn, Askeladd has seen in himself what influence can have on a young mind, from both Thor's influence on Thorfinn, but also Askeladd's influence on Thorfinn. What young adult he has grown into.
Yeah.
From what he's been through. I think Askeladd has had a great kind of master class in giving certain people tools at a young age or treating them a certain way. What will they do with it? What can they grow from that? There's
this like purity and complexity of youth, right? Of these people who are still trying to, whose lives are still being shaped, right?
You're not shackled in a position.
If you look at like the comparison between somebody like Thorfinn or Canute compared to like these soldiers who are like, what are you talking about? A silver piece is worth a silver piece. Like there's so much like, okay, this is the way that life works. This is a fact. Like there's no like more complex thinking or like or questioning like what really means what, you know, any introspection or anything in those lines of thinking, but when you look at like the youth, right? Even Thorfinn has had so many moments of like thinking back of what his dad has said. You know, it's so interesting to me that Askeladd's like, you know, thinking this way.
Askeladd's first thought of Thorfinn was that he was just going to die on that ship that they were towing.
Yeah.
He was just a kid and he wasn't going to survive, and Askeladd wasn't going to reach his hand out or anything, but he wasn't going to interfere at all. And Askeladd saw firsthand, like, you know, what could happen from both lack of interference to also influence interference in a young person who has a motivation of some sort. Thorfinn had a massive motivation and desire for survival and for revenge.
Yeah.
Canute could also have a massive motivation in his spirituality that could actually end up being very, very strong and push him forward and make him resilient and survive.
I think prior to this episode, I had so many like false preconceptions of what Canute might be or what he's like. A lot of that, I guess I assumed based off of his looks that he was older than he is, or like at least 10 years older than Thorfinn.
Probably because of his height.
Yeah,
I thought he was older.
But because of his age and specific dialogue this episode, I have like so much more, like how you just brought up religion, right? And how he could have these feelings based off of how his religion like is being affected, or like his beliefs in that. Like I'm wondering how little thought he has put into a lot of things in his life, or a lot of his beliefs now, when previously I thought like, okay, he's not talking, he probably has these very firm beliefs on things.
We took the silence as a show of very firm knowingness and awareness and belief in what he was doing, that he was making this definitive decision to be passive.
Yeah. But this episode makes me feel like he is he is a still a pretty empty chalkboard with writing that, like, with potential to have writing on it, right?
We're seeing now from this episode that he is a heavily sheltered young man.
Yeah.
That never really was tested in any regard to be anything, was just allowed to be in his own little room, and the priest was there, and Ragnar was there constantly doing everything for him. And now his dad's like, here you go, here's some men, fight.
What do you think that he said to Ragnar after...
He definitely didn't say what Ragnar said.
You don't think?
I don't think so.
I think that there's potential that he did not say that. And I think that there's potential that we learn what he said later on. I think he could have potentially been like, say what you think's best, or like, do this, and then Ragnar just did his own thing, or
I don't want to be king.
Maybe. I don't know. I think that the idea of him being moldable is something that I didn't consider before, and I love that it seems like Askeladd is truly considering that. I want to read the dialogue that he had in referring to Canute, though. The more you fall for a man, the less things go how you want. Maybe someone like him is just what we need.
Someone that you don't have that immense inspiration and that you don't put up on that pedestal in the same way that someone like, I don't know, you'd put Thor's up on that pedestal, someone that you'd want to follow.
Thorkel, I think, is a good example,
even,
because like he's leading a troop right now, and it's pretty much based off of how capable he is in battle, right? But I don't know.
But we also know that he's not very trustworthy. Like, they're putting all of their eggs into Thorkel's basket, but Thorkel's only thinking, oh, I don't get to see Thorfinn again? Darn it. You know? And he's only doing this because it's the most fun and challenging at the time. He could switch up on you and kill all your men in an instant that he decides it's more fun and more challenging to do so.
And if it's belief outside of just that strength, it probably has the potential to be more firm and last longer.
It's not like his personality and all of his virtues and values were that of a leader. It's just that he's crazy strong.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think Askeladd's like really breaking down, like, what does a leader actually need in terms of like traits?
It's a lot of potential for Canute to live up to or not to live up to, because like we don't know much about him still. Like, we know that a hawk was flying low and he wanted it. I mean, that's cool.
Making like a separate category for him. He's like, oh, okay, you don't you're not like the others, so let's make you your own category so you can shine.
Yeah. We also had the emphasis on his looks and everything, right? And his looks differ from every other person really that we've seen, especially Thorfinn. And these people who are grown up around battle and are being forced into it associate power with, you know, calluses on your fingertips.
I'm surprised we didn't get like a hand comparison.
Yeah, and that's the determining factor of strength. But potentially the real strength can come from something more internal and mental. I don't know. I don't know if Canute has that right now, but I'm very interested in seeing what he's capable of in terms of like thinking, or in terms of like where his morality lies.
Askeladd, in terms of possibly being an influence to Canute, Askeladd isn't just a good fighter. What he is he's a charismatic leader. And he is crafty and creative with strategy. And so he's a big thinker. And honestly, Canute could probably learn from some of that like thinking of like how to speak to people, how to speak to different people depending on your relationship with them and depending on what you want from them. Like, there's a lot that Canute could learn or be influenced by from Askeladd that has nothing to do with fighting.
Yeah. This almost seemed like a season finale, or like a mid-season break, because the ending of the episode, when we got the montage of these characters that we've seen, it I loved it, to be honest, because we came back to, like, one, added to the pacing of the episode that I absolutely adored, and then two, it made me so excited for characters like Leaf to show back up, and just to reaffirm...
Which he's aged.
Yeah, but just to reaffirm, like, things that we've probably thought in our own headcanon. Like, he has not for a second forgotten Thorfinn or his mission to bring him home. And that's heartbreaking. Or the king, sipping on some wine, leaning on a chair.
I hate him.
You hate him?
I do not like him.
You think Leaf, this person does kind of look like Thorfinn.
Yeah.
Do you think Leaf, ran up to him after we get the scene?
I feel like Leaf's reacting in a way where he identifies that that's not Thorfinn.
Yeah, I know.
Over there. I don't know how he knew that wasn't, since he hasn't seen him in years.
God. I loved Thorfinn standing up to them and looking, and sure, again, it can be totally in our heads, but it does remind us, or remind me at least, of the battle with Thors and the archers on the cliffs.
It won't be lost on Thorfinn. This situation and this setup is in Askeladd's playbook. Thorfinn has seen it. This will not be lost on him, especially since we literally get the frame of Thor's in Askeladd's mind in this episode.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be lost on Thorfinn what this scene with the archers on the hill and they're in this little channel represents. And I really wish that the episode hadn't ended, because I really want to see what Thorfinn does with this task he's been given. Like, how would Thorfinn actually react to protecting someone? He's normally, diving in and out and going into the fray.
Yeah.
Directly, like, climbing the wall.
Now he has a shield.
Cutting off heads.
Yeah.
And now he has a shield, and he's supposed to probably stay right beside
What a great
Canute.
contrast.
Like, he has to stay where Canute is in order to protect him the best. And I'm like, how is he going to do that? How is he going to... That's not how he fights. He's a close-range fighter.
Well, his job isn't to fight right now, right? His job's to protect. I'm interested to see where it goes. I was in between watching this episode, in my perception of Canute, whether he was extremely, intelligent and wise, that other people, can't understand him yet, or he has the potential to be wise, or totally aloof. When he's looking up at the hawk and he's like, it's so low, my first instinct is oh my God, what is he thinking about that? What's the meaning behind that in terms of other ways of thinking? But then after learning his age and seeing his disposition, now I'm okay, is he just completely aloof to everything?
I think what it shows us is imagine if Thorfinn was still home in his village at this point. He'd be like, whoa, look at that bird,
Yeah.
He's literally being chased. Bad things are happening. We are in a war. And he's like, oh, can you catch me that bird? There's this lack of awareness of the situation that he's in, probably because he doesn't fully grasp consequences and doesn't fully grasp life and death, and what a bodily injury would feel like.
Yeah.
So yeah, definite major contrast to Thorfinn here.
I love the look that Thorfinn gave Canute, and then Canute was terrified. It was amazing.
I'm honestly really excited for the next episode.
Me too. I didn't want it to end. Damn. We have to wait.
Oh,
the last thing I want to talk about is the priest and his speech about love and stuff. I said jokingly, oh, drink, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
that's what I was thinking too.
But I don't know. I think that it's an interesting concept to bring up in this episode specifically, and the idea that other people in the group wanted to hear more about it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It reminds me of Thor's, the idea of love and
Gives
finding
value
something.
to all.
Yeah. Loved it.
Mm-hmm.
Good episode. You good?
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and we hope to see you next time.